Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Permit to Work. This is section 2 of the video that you have hopefully just watched. So, part 2, not section 2. The Permit to Work has different stages, and each stage must be met. So, let's discuss what these stages are. Now, the permit has to be issued by a competent issuing authority, and they have to make sure that the parameters of the permit are actually in place before the permit is issued. And what you're hearing now is the sound of my daughter's voice. She's crying. So you need to know that the permit parameters and safety precautions and requirements are all in place before you before the issuing authority can issue the permit to you. Now, the acceptance of the permit is another story. The acceptance of the permit must happen by a competent person, a competent worker. The worker that is opening the permit, or the person opening the permit, cannot be any simple worker. Like if you have unskilled laborers, you have supervisors, foremen, or a shift manager, whatever. You cannot have the lowest person in the hierarchy of workers to open the permit. You need to have somebody that knows the job and knows what risk assessment, method statement, and all of that. This person can open the permit, but the other person cannot. Now, the acceptance by a competent worker, or as they're calling it, the performing authority. The performing authority confirms understanding of the work to be done, the hazards involved, and they know that what the risks are from this hazard, and they need to know that the corresponding precautions are in place to either eliminate, reduce, or control the risk before they can start the operation. Now, the handback of the permit to work, confirming to the performing authority, confirms that the work has been completed to plan. For example, we are going to dig a hole, and because of the underground utilities, we need to have a permit. So we opened an excavation permit. We dug the hole. We set the hard barrier in place and put the caution and warning signs. Now our job is complete. Somebody from the issuing authority can come, verify it's good. They sign the permit, finished, it's closed. Okay, finished. Cancellation of the permit by the issuing authority confirms the work has been stated, has been tested, and the work area returned to normal use. Additional procedure are required for extension of agreed time limit if necessary, and for managing shift handover. So sometimes you will need an extension, sometimes you need to hand over the permit to the next shift. Like I said, it depends on the health and safety management system of that company. Sometimes you will need to open a new permit, maybe after 2 hours, or maybe because the shift changed, or maybe you need to make an extension to that permit, and again you need to have a pre-job safety meeting, and so on. Now, what do we have next? The permit to work form itself, like the actual form of the permit to work. It should be designed to help communication between everyone involved in doing that task, and should take into account individual site conditions and requirements. Now, okay, the reason I'm saying this is because let's say you have poor housekeeping in this area. Let's say there's somebody changing a light bulb, okay, and there's some oil on the ground. Okay, that is hazardous. That is there is a risk. Some people can slip on that oil and fall, but the risk here is not that big, really. And just clean it and that's it. But if you say there's some oil spill on an elevated platform in front of the stairs or the steps leading to that platform, this risk is higher. So it needs to be cleaned as well to eliminate the risk of falling. That's why the communication needs to happen between every person involved. And my daughter keeps crying. My apologies for that. Site conditions, like we said, different. Like the condition of this hazard and this hazard are different. Okay. And the particular requirements of the task to be controlled, such as confined space entry or hot work, different permit to work forms may be required for different tasks. Like I said, the permit to work form itself may differ from one task to another, confined space from hot work, or sometimes you will have hot work inside a confined space. Maybe you need to have 2 work permits, you need to have a safe system of work, a rescue plan, whatever. But again, it's different than working at height and excavation. You know, the excavation is different than working at height. Each permit should be different than the other. Why? Because you have different hazards, different control measures are required. And again, you cannot use an excavation permit for somebody that is going to work on high voltage electrical lines, right? So that's why the forms must be different or may be different in different cases. Now the permit itself, the information on the permit form may differ, but some essential permits sections they may vary. They're not different, but they may vary from one permit to another. For example, all permits, they must have a title, and all permits, they must have a reference number. Now, in the reference number, this is the permit number itself, but you may have a JSA with this permit. So the JSA number must be mentioned in this section. You may have a risk assessment, you may have a method statement, you may have a sketch, you may have a lifting plan, you may have an isolation certificate. All these parts, all these parts of the permit system, all these documents, each of them has a control number, and the numbers must be written. Like the number of the permit must be written on the JSA, on the risk assessment, on the lifting plan. The numbers of all these other documents must be mentioned on the permit to work, and vice versa. The job location, it must clearly be written. For example, if you're on an oil rig, you say, I'm going to be working on the mud tanks. What mud tanks? We have many mud tanks. Okay, mud tank 2 or 2A, whatever names, excuse me, whatever names you may have. I'm going to be working on the mud pump. Which mud pump? I'm going to be working on so on and so on and so on. I'm going to be working on the generator. Which generator? You need to be specific. The name of the location must be specified clearly, and this will determine whether or not you can work, because the company man, like you said, if you're on the oil rig, the company man will decide whether or not you are allowed to work in that location in this specific time. Now, plant identification, you need to say, for example, if you're working on a forklift to perform maintenance, you need to mention the name of that forklift, the make, the model, or maybe it's just enough to mention the license plate of that forklift. If you're working on a pump, on a generator, on a machine, you need to mention the name, the serial number maybe of that equipment. A description of work to be done and its limitations. For example, if you're working on the mud pumps, you're going to weld, for example, the cover. Okay, let's say on the agitator tank, you're going to be welding the gate cover. Okay, the gate cover. So maybe tack welding, maybe just welding. So you'll mention welding the access cover on agitator number 2 on mud tanks. That's it. Okay. Its limitations. This is it. You will be working, like, for example, outside or inside. Okay, outside or inside? Are you going to be using ladder or anything? Are you going to be laying down? Do you need to rescue? All these things. So you just clearly mention. Hazard identification, including residual hazards and hazards associated with the work. Let's say you're going to be working in a confined space. Maybe the tank is clean now, but you need to go inside and clean it more. Okay, it's clean. There is nothing inside, like if it was a storage tank. But if you're going inside to clean it, means there's, it's still dirty. Let's take an example from oil and gas. Maybe what you're going to clean inside still have residual H2S, residual poisonous gases, residual poisonous gases, or CO, or maybe you have LEL, lower explosive limit, or you don't have enough oxygen. So you need to mention all these hazards, residual hazards, and associated with your work. For example, if you're going to be cleaning, are you using a pressure washer? Are you using a wash gun? Are you using your hands, or what are you using? You need to mention this information. Precautions necessary and actions in the event of an emergency. People who carried cut precautions, isolating authority should sign the precautions have been taken. So, like I said, if you work in a confined space, do you have a rescue team? Do you have the isolation certificate? Did the people isolated? Do you have the key of the isolation, or tag out, lockout, tag out, and do you have your information, everything you need to mention. Protective equipment including PPE. What? I thought protective equipment is PPE. Yes. PPE, when you say PPE, people normally think, oh, okay, hard hat, glasses. Yes, this is a part of PPE. But there's also hazard-specific PPE. Hazard-specific PPE is different than normal PPE. So you need to mention it. For example, if you're working at height, you need to have a double lanyard, a lanyard with double hooks, a full body harness. Maybe you need a lifeline. Maybe you need an inertia reel, or as they call it, fall arrestor. Maybe you need a net. You need a lot of things. So you need to clearly mention these PPE parts in the permit section. Another thing that is required is, of course, the signature of the issuing authority, confirming that the isolation has been made. Now, maybe your job is in different stages and it requires more authorization as you proceed, as you progress in your tasks. So maybe you will get one signature for now, and your permit will have limit. Okay, sometimes you will not put the limit. Maybe they will say, okay, your permit is only good until the next hour or two. This will force you to come back to them to get another permit, and they can examine the work site again and then give you another permit or extend your current one. And maybe sometimes the permit requires a signature from this person, but once you reach a different stage, you will have to have a signature from a higher person. Okay, acceptance signature. Like I said, this is also a section of the permit. So the issuing authority must sign it. You will have to sign it as the performing authority, and make sure that you accept everything. You have identified all the hazards and you accept all the responsibilities. The work site will be handed back clean and safe to work for everybody else once you close the permit. The extension or handover procedure, the signatures confirming checks made that plant remains safe to be worked upon, and new performing authorities and permit users made fully aware of hazards, precautions, and the new expiry date given. Like I said, you either have to open another permit or sign the extension part. The difference between this one and that one is that once you open another permit, you need to have another printed, another permit, another printed JSA, another printed risk assessment, method statement. All of these things, you need to print them again, staple them, and environmentally speaking, this is bad. I know some people will say, "Oh, okay, Gharib, speaking about environment." Okay, but if you extend it, it means you will use the same permit, same documents, everything is still attached. You just have to understand and take responsibility of the continuation of the work. Handback is signed, signed by the performing authority, certifying work completed. It means you're closing the permit or you're returning the permit to them. Signed by issuing authority, certifying work completed and plant ready for testing and recommissioning. This, of course, is talking about a piece of equipment that was being worked upon, and now you've done your work. Other people can test it. Maybe they will need another permit. That's their deal. They can deal with it, but your job is done. Cancellation, certifying work tested and plant satisfactory recommissioned. Okay, so we are the maintenance guys. We fix the permit. We fix the equipment. We return the permit. We close it. That's it. Now another person comes to open a testing permit. Once they test the equipment, it is ready. And it can be used again. Now, I do not know why I made this a two-part video, but hopefully it was a good decision. This video will also be available in Arabic, inshallah, soon. I don't know when, but soon it will be available in Arabic. It depends on when you're watching this. Maybe it's already out. Until the next video, I've been Gharib Shaban Hassan, and I'll see you in the next one, inshallah.